witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. God is keeping track of every lie. There is no escape. Proverbs 19:5. I will tell the truth, for God will punish every lie. Proverbs 19:5. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. Proverbs 19:5.
Hello and welcome everybody to a new video from Jörg, Juggler 66 Hour of the Truth. Today we have a wonderful sun-shining Sunday, the 12th of August 2018, and I'm gathered here together via Skype with my two brothers in Christ, Bret Norman from the United States of America, who you know and who is a wonderful producer of all the videos of the readings of Code Word Babylon, and our other brother in Christ who comes just a few hundred kilometers from here, from the border of Germany with Netherlands, who is called Michael, who you also know, maybe not know yet, from the readings of Code Word Babylon, because he only appears in the latter ones, but he's a brother who accompanies us a lot in these readings, and both were of course with me here yesterday when we were reading what we are going to continue today, Simon Peter versus Simon Magus, the 24 pages introduction to the reading of the book from Ernest Martin that comes after this, of course. And therefore, for today, I first want to welcome, with a very warm welcome, all over the great Atlantic Ocean, my brother in Christ, Bret Norman. Hello, Bret, and welcome.
Thank you. Very, very pleased to be here, and looking forward to learning more about the succession of Peter in the Roman Catholic Church that really should not be.
That really should not be the one that they teach, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no apostolic succession.
No, there is no apostolic succession.
And especially no apostolic succession from, quote-unquote, the Apostle Peter. Huh? Or
Yeah,
Saint
that's
Peter,
right.
as they call him. Yeah.
As they call him, yeah.
Yeah. We are going to uncover these web of lies that they spun all through the centuries. Yeah. And we are going further in that even today. Good. Michael, welcome to the broadcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the upcoming pleasure which I will have by listening to your reading, and I'm very curious to know what the result of all will be. In fact, I know it already, but I think the explanation will be very interesting to know.
Yeah, you know it, of course, because you have the PDF that we are going to read, and then that I'm going to continue right now. But of course, there's always something to add to their comments of me, comments of Bret, and comments of yourself, of course. So, without any further delay, let us just go back to the reading. Now, the point is that we finished yesterday on the page 11, where it says what happened in these 16 verses. So, not only for the ones who did not care to watch the videos preceding this one, but also to get us back in the right mood to know what we are talking about when we speak about Simon Magus, I want to repeat these 16 verses. And these 16 verses are taken from the book of Acts, of course, as we find them in the King James Version of the Bible, from 1611. We read Acts chapter 8, verses 9 through 25, these 16 verses, and I'm going to read them to you right now again. Of course, when any of you, Bret or Michael, has any comment, even a comment during the reading of the Bible verses, then you're very welcome to always interrupt me with comment, question, hey Jörg, whatever you think of, and make yourselves...
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. Yesterday, Jörg and I had a Bible study with Tom Fress, and we were discussing was it Hebrews chapter 1?
Yes.
The italics, and that was just fascinating. And another reason why everyone should seek after the 1611 King James Version of the Bible first before anything. You have italics, and italics are the words that the translators put there to help you. And sometimes they do not really help. But since they're in italics, you have the option to read them or leave them out for your better understanding.
Very important point that you are making there, Bret. Absolutely.
It is, and I'll tell you, that is the best reason to read a King James I've found for my own.
Of course, certainly also
understanding.
because there's no other Bible that uses that system, right?
Nope.
The King
there
James
isn't.
Bible is the only one that uses this and the system of these letters, you know, of these italic letters, yeah.
That's right.
So, but that's something that we have to look in some other time. Now we are going to read in Acts chapter 8, the way that it is copied in here. I did not take care of putting in italics what is in italics here in this reading, if there are any. We are just going to read these 16 verses in the hope that we understand or that we can teach correctly to the people who Simon Magus was, who was mentioned here once. And of course, Bret, the point is also very important that you made yesterday, that you asked, well, if the name Magus never appears in the Bible, how do we know that this Simon is Simon Magus, and how did he come to his name Magus? And we established that yesterday. I'm not going back into that. People who want to inform themselves about this point, please go back to the second reading that we recorded yesterday. And now I'm going to read Acts chapter 8 verses 9 through 25, these 16 verses to you. From, as you can see on the picture next to the text, the King James Bible from 1611, the Authorized Version. It is written, "But there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery, and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one, to whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest, saying, This man is the great power of God. And to him they had regard, because that of long time he had bewitched them with sorceries. But when they believed Philip preaching the things concerning the kingdom of God and the name of Jesus Christ, they were baptized, both men and women. Then Simon himself believed also, and when he was baptized he continued with Philip, and wondered, beholding the miracles and signs which were done. Now when the apostles which were at Jerusalem heard that Samaria had received the word of God, they sent unto them Peter and John, who, when they came down, prayed for them that they might receive the Holy Ghost. For as yet he was fallen upon none of them, only they were baptized in the name of the Lord Jesus. Then laid they their hands on them, and they received the Holy Ghost. And when Simon saw that through laying on the apostles' hands the Holy Ghost was given, he offered them money, saying, Give me also this power, that on whomsoever I lay hands he may receive the Holy Ghost. But Peter said unto him, Thy money perish with thee, because thou hast thought that the gift of God may be purchased with money. Thou hast neither part nor lot in this matter, for thy heart is not right in the sight of God. Repent therefore for this thy wickedness, and pray God if perhaps the thought of thine heart may be forgiven thee. For I perceive that thou art in the gall of bitterness, and in the bond of iniquity. Then answered Simon and said, Pray ye to the Lord for me, that none of these things which ye have spoken come upon me. And they, when they had testified and preached the word of the Lord, returned to Jerusalem and preached the gospel in many villages of the Samaritans. Now I have to tell you that these 16 verses of Acts actually ask for a very important study to dissect these verses and speak about these verses and understand these verses in all their meaning that they were written in. But that is a study, or that is a subject for a Bible study, and that is not the subject of this reading. So this is why I'm going to continue right here, right now. I saw a question popping up there from Michael before I started this reading. Michael, is there something that you want to share with us, or that you want to question in regard of what I just read, or that we are going to speak of now?
No, I'm just fine.
Oh, okay, then it was in regard to something else. If
Yeah.
it was in regard to what Bret mentioned for our Bible study yesterday, that is something we can talk about after this broadcast, of course. You're always welcome then we answer your question, of course. Okay? So, what happened in these 16 verses? This is where we have to continue our reading from yesterday. Was this just a one-time event that took place, or something that Luke decided to document? Because, you know, the person who wrote the Gospel of Luke, that Luke also wrote the Acts of the Apostles, as this book is called. The confrontation that took place there, or here, in Jerusalem, not long after the death and resurrection of Jesus, can be easily overlooked as just one of those things that may have been relevant to the time. But what really happens here? Now, the incident that took place between Simon Magus and the Apostle The incident that took place between Simon Magus and the Apostles sets the stage of many of the epistles of the New Testament and the early entrance of apostasy into the early church. The person that is mentioned and that we need to concentrate on is Simon Magus, and how he transformed himself into the first leader of the false worldwide religious system, the Catholic Church. Just want to use another picture here, and in this picture we can see the disputation that Saint Peter had with Simon Magus. You see Peter here in blue and beige, covered in his clothes, and left of him you see Simon Magus, all clothed in black, and that for another important reason that we can later talk about. But think of the Jesuits are the men in black and the men in black robes, huh? Now, the reason Luke recorded this encounter with Simon Magus has far-reaching effects. As Hastings explains, the important reason was that, quote, Luke's well-known plan for describing the first meeting between Christianity and rival systems, unquote, as we can read in Hastings' Bible Dictionary on page 498. Luke gives in detail the principal character who established the so-called Christian counterpart of the truth in the apostles' day. This is the reason the apostles and their church letters many times mention the false system as already in existence, but fail to describe its origin. No, they don't fail to describe its origin. They didn't have to describe its origin because that was already done right at the first by Luke. And the Bible is not a book that needlessly repeats itself. You just have to understand it when you read it. You have to understand it when you read these verses. And when we later on in the Bible read, I think it is in 2 Thessalonians, isn't it? Where it states that the mystery of iniquity doth already work. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah? This refers to... Thank you, Bret. This refers to what we have just read here in the book of Acts, chapter 8, between the verses 9 and 25. This is what the author means here. This is the reason why the apostles and their church letters many times mention the false system. Take heed that no man deceive you. And the iniquity doth already work, and all these alike sentences. It's already in existence, and they do not fail to describe its origin. They didn't need to, because it was already done by Luke at the first sight, at the very first time it popped up. Everybody knew that that was the apostasy that was still going to work. Now, the book of Acts, however, performs its purpose in exposing who started the whole apostasy. God leaves it to the epistles. Revelations and the Gospel of John describe the heresy, and even the law and the prophets, or the Old Testament as many people like to call it, prophesied of the church falling away from the truth, like the church of the law and the prophets, like the church of old, you know. Israel in the law and the prophets also fell away from the truth. The whole nation of Israel and 10 tribes were dispersed from the realm of Israel in that time, and the only one remaining was a part of Benjamin and the tribe of Judah, and they fell when they became apostate into Babylonian captivity, and they had another chance of 490 years of rebuilding the city and the temple, and then to make an end of the discretion after the 490 years with the coming of Messiah, as we can read in Daniel chapter 9 verses 24 through 27. Yeah? The church of the quote-unquote Old Testament always fell away from the truth, and the same danger is for the new church. Why should there be any difference? Because all the churches consist of men, and all men are born in trespasses and sins, and none is righteous, no, not one. So of course there will be a falling away, always, and this is what the early apostles warned about, or what the apostles warned about, not the early apostles. There are no letter apostles, but you know, I just wanted to say the early church fathers, but there are no church fathers.
Yeah,
I just have to get my words right sometimes. So this is why the apostles warned about that. Please, Bret.
Oh yeah, this is a wonderful example right here. What you just mentioned. Wow, I'm still waking up over here, your guy.
Yeah, I know it's early. I understand.
Quick to jump on these things, but no, keep going. This is wonderful.
Okay. We continue in the text. We are certainly not left in doubt concerning its abominable teachings. There is hardly an epistle that does not mention the religious teaching of Simon Magus. Even the scholars who have studied church history have seen that almost all of the references in the New Testament expose the errors in the first age of the church and are directed exclusively to Simon Magus, or his immediate followers. A few of these examples will be given later and will show that the existence of a shadow church was already gaining strength and disrupting the true teachings of Christ. Now, before we go any further and speak about who is Simon Magus as it is written here, we have to understand that we only have to look into the book of Revelation. And by that I mean the very first chapters of the book of Revelation. For example, Revelation chapter 2. Because in these very first chapters of the book of Revelation, Jesus Christ gives order to angels to write to the 7 churches that were founded at that time. And all these churches were founded by whom? By the apostles. By the apostles of the circumcision and by the apostles of the uncircumcised, meaning Paul. And all the others were going to the circumcision, going to the Jews. And there you have the church of Ephesus, for example. And you have other churches. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have here? Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, as we can read in Revelation chapter 2. These things saith he that holdeth the 7 stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the 7 gold candlesticks. That's Jesus Christ. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil. And thou hast tried them which say they are apostles, and are not. Simon Magus, anyone?
Yeah,
and hast found them liars, and hast borne and hast patience, and for my name's sake hast labored and hast not fainted. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. What's the first love? Jesus Christ. Remember therefore from whence thou art fallen, and repent, and do the first works, or else I will come unto thee quickly, and will remove thy candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. But this thou hast, that thou hatest the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. Very important that we understand here that Jesus doesn't hate the Nicolaitans, but he hates the deeds of the Nicolaitans. There are many people who understand this wrong and say, oh, Jesus hated the Nicolaitans. Aren't we supposed to love our neighbor? Aren't we supposed to love even our enemies? Yes. But Jesus Christ hates the deeds of the Nicolaitans. And this is the reason why Michael, Bret, and I am gathered here together, because we hate the deeds of the Roman Catholic Church. We do not hate Roman Catholics. We do this work out of love for the Roman Catholics, to get them out of there, as God cries out in Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. Right?
Yes. And the Roman Catholic Church has reached its arm around many more churches than we even know, through their agents, the Jesuits, that have infiltrated into the seminaries, into the higher schools of learning, into the doctrine. So it doesn't even have to be a Jesuit in your pulpit.
Higher schools of learning, Bret, of course, schools of Gnosticism.
That's right.
Because there's nothing wrong with higher learning, if you have the higher learning of the Bible itself. But it's the question, are you studying Gnosticism or are you studying the Word of God? Eh?
Well, the problem is you get so high that you can't come back down and find your humility.
Yeah, that's right.
The problem.
That's right, too.
That's...
Now, I'm not going to divert and read the whole chapter 2 of Revelation. But here we see in verse 8 that he says, and to the angel of the church in Smyrna write. And so he goes on to, in verse 12, in Pergamos. And so he goes on to all the 7 churches. And he warns all the 7 churches, Thyatira here in verse 18, and so on. And he warns all these churches not to fall away from the first fruits, not to fall away from the first works, not to fall away from their true love, and of course tells them that there will be consequences if they do. This is something that we just have to understand. We are warned in the last book of the New Testament, the Revelation by Jesus Christ, of the falling away explicitly. And all the epistles before, in the book of the Corinthians, Colossians, Timothy, Titus, pick them all. In all of the epistles we are warned of the falling away. Yeah?
Oh, we sure are. You should read verse 9 too. This is a good one.
Verse 9 in Revelation chapter 2.
Yes, please.
I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Yes, I fear, Bret, that you open a can of worms.
Yeah, that's right. But we're speaking of a shadow church here.
Yes, absolutely. Because what Jesus Christ is speaking about here is the Roman Catholic Church, because they say that they are Jews and are not. Where does the Roman Catholic Church say they are Jews? Jörg, have you gone crazy now all of a sudden? No, I have not. But do you see that little beanie hat the Pope often wears? The Roman Catholic Church claims for itself that it is the only true Church of Jesus Christ, the continuation of the Church of Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus Christ was a Jew, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. So the true Jewish Church, the true Israel Church, is Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And the
salvation
Jews
is of the Jews. That's right.
And the Jews in the Roman Catholic Church who claim that they are the quote-unquote descendants of the true Church of Jesus Christ, claim that they are quote-unquote Jews, but they are not. They are of the synagogue of Satan, because Roman Catholicism is not Christianity. Easy as that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Bret?
Yep, that's true. But, the people of this world embrace it still. And, we need to dismantle this in our understanding as individual Christians here and dislodge ourselves from these institutions. Come out of her, my people. Yes, Revelation 18:4, all over again.
Yeah, I think that's more convenient and more easier for people who do not have to lose that much, because if you achieve a high position in this society, there's much you can lose. You can lose your social benefits, your social ties.
The gospel makes a lot more sense too, Michael, that way.
Yeah.
Because Jesus said a lot of things about the rich man.
Yeah, he did.
So, everything does have its place. And if you're not willing to give up your, should we say, position and your power over others, to humble yourself and be subservient to them, then you get what you deserve, I guess, huh?
Sure.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what we also then can take a look at while we're at it is Matthew chapter 6, because that's what you were speaking of, right? The rich man, okay?
Yes, that's right. Matthew 6.
So not only of the rich man, but it says in chapter 6 of the Gospel of Matthew, in verse 19, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth," means don't seek wealth or riches in this material world, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, spiritual treasures. And what are spiritual treasures, among others? Working for the name and the sake of the Lord Jesus Christ. Doing videos like this, preaching the gospel to every creature. Yeah?
Becoming a born-again believer and finding salvation in Christ. That's right, through the Bible.
Yes, and show through your works the glory of God. Because without the wonderful grace of the Lord, you cannot do these works. And you do not do these works to elevate yourself, but you do that to show how God is working through you and showing all the others, the pagans, the heathen, the non-believers, the glory of God through your works. This is the reason why we are gathered here together and do this reading and do these, trying to make you understand why this is so important. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Okay, I'm going to continue in the text, if it's all right with
Please
you guys.
do. Oh yeah,
Yep.
we could spin off all day on tangents like this. It's great. I
ain't
love
that
it.
right?
But we better stick to what we got going. Yeah, perfect.
We are certainly not left in doubt concerning its abominable teachings. Speaking of the falling away. There is hardly an epistle that does not mention the religious teaching of Simon Magus. Even the scholars who have studied church history have seen that almost all of the references in the New Testament expose the errors in the first age of the church and are directed exclusively to Simon Magus or his immediate followers and co-workers. A few of these examples will be given later and will show that the existence of a shadow church was already gaining strength and disrupting the true teachings of Christ. Now, why do I think that this is a very important sentence? We are speaking of the existence of a shadow church. Okay? I have to mark this with color so that it springs right into your eyes when you have a look at this page. The existence of a shadow church. What does the Roman Catholic Church do everywhere she gets into power, in all nations, in all states? What does she do? She plants a shadow government through the dioceses, through all the priests and the bishops, and on the top the cardinals. She plants her hierarchy within the state wherein she is accepted through concordats. Now, just have a look and Google. I'm going to do that for you. I have my browser open here. I'm going to do that for you, and I'm going to Google diocese in United States. Dioceses in United States. Then we go to maps. Oh, no, pictures. Sorry, not maps. We go to pictures. Just a second. Pictures. And here you can see different pictures of the dioceses of the United States of America. Catholic dioceses and archdioceses. You see this? It's easy, huh? I'm going to visit that site, and it's from reddit.com. Catholic dioceses and archdioceses in the United States. In this picture that we see here. Yeah, I agree to all this cookie BS that you encounter every time when you go on a website for the moment. This is a very interesting card, and this map really shows all the ecclesiastical provinces. Now, what is this? These Catholic dioceses and archdioceses are nothing else but the shadow government of the United States of America. Now, I just took the example of America. I can also take the example of Europe, of any country in Europe. Germany, where Michael lives, Belgium, where I live, Italy, France, Spain. It doesn't matter.
Yep,
it's
that's
everywhere
right.
the same. The Roman Catholic Church, according even to her own teaching, the Roman Catholic Church is a state. So with this, you are inviting the cancer that eats you up. You are inviting a state inside your state. And that is what the Roman Catholic Church does. And this is what we are talking about here when we are looking at this text that we are reading here right now. The existence of a shadow church, and the shadow church builds up a shadow government and claims that the spiritual power is above the temporal power. A few of these examples will be given later and will show, and we are going to do that, the existence of a shadow church was already gaining strength and disrupting the true teachings of Christ, and this shadow church built up shadow governments all over the world, and those are the foundation for the quote-unquote New World Order, which is not new at all, but only the old world order in new clothes. Who is Simon Magus? We see in the book of Acts, chapter 8, verses 10 and 11, quote, "This man is the great power of God, and to him they had regard, because that of long time he had bewitched them with sorceries," unquote. Simon is clearly stated as being one who practiced magic and paganism. One also needs to note that he is not just a pagan, but also a leader of the pagan church, since he has misled and bewitched many people with sorcery. Simon most likely heard the news about the risen Christ directly from the apostles and possibly from Jesus himself. Instead of accepting the message of salvation as a gift, he desired to buy this power for his own use. Simon wanted to use the power of the Holy Spirit most probably for personal gain and profit, thus taking the Lord's name in vain, which is against the third commandment. And from that comes the word simony, as we already established in the second reading, last reading. Now, did Simon go his way after his strong rebuke for Peter? No, he did not. In fact, he considered himself to be a Christian. Several historians note this, and with these historians you gotta be very careful, because they base their writings on fables and hearsay, and not first-word account as the Bible does. Yeah? Several historians note this. With this evidence of Simon's activities after his rejection by Peter, we will clearly be able to see why Luke thought it most important to tell the real condition of this man. He wanted to prove that he was in actuality never an apostle of Christ. In this regard, notice the comment of Hastings' Dictionary of the Apostolic Church, Volume 2, page 496, quote, "But it need not be supposed that when Simon broke with the Christians, he renounced all he had learned. It is more probable that he carried some of the Christian ideas with him, and that he wove these into a system of his own. This system is a mixture of pagan ideas wrapped with Christian names and identities." Now, isn't this exactly what happened in 321 when by Constantine, Christianity, the true biblical apostolic Christianity, was used to baptize the pagan Roman Empire and was made the state religion of that pagan empire? And the next thing that came up was the mixture of pagan rites and pagan ideas with Christian names and identities. We could talk about this alone for 10 hours. So I need you guys to do your own studies also. The things that we are mentioning here they are very easy to identify by the Bible. Yeah? And even when you go to the Catholic Encyclopedia and other writings like these, you often see that, quote-unquote, Simon Magus repented of what he did. When you read the book of Acts, you understand very clearly, for example in verse 24 of chapter 8 of Acts, that Simon did not repent, that he didn't even believe in the Lord, because he says here, "Then answered Simon after the rebuke of Peter, and said, Pray ye to the Lord for me, that none of these things which ye have spoken come upon me." He does not even care to pray to the Lord for himself. Does that mean that he believes in the Lord? I think not. What do you guys think?
I absolutely agree.
There's no record in the Bible that Simon ever repented of when he offered money to buy the power of God, the power of the Holy Spirit. In the Bible there is not one word. No, on the contrary. He even answered to Peter, "Pray ye to the Lord, pray ye." Peter and John and who was there with him? Philip. Yeah? The three guys, the three apostles who were there. "Pray ye to me, pray ye to the Lord for me, that none of these things which ye have spoken come upon me." He doesn't even pray to that God himself. In that regard, he reminds me very much of Nebuchadnezzar, who always said, "Oh, the Lord is this and the Lord is that and wonderful," and the next day he turned his back on him. You know?
Yeah, gets his own ideas.
Yes?
Yeah, he's getting his own ideas about how he should worship the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Which is
Nebuchadnezzar,
himself, really.
who understood the dream that was finally explained to him by Daniel about this statue of that metal man, and in the very next chapter he turns around and says, "No, your God can say whatever he wants. I build my own statue and it's going to be full of gold because I am the first and the last, because that's what he actually said in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Got it.
But this is understanding that you will only gain when you go to study the Bible, which is
Yeah, it's
very important
blaspheming
thing
the
to
Holy
do.
Spirit, Yerk. It's blaspheming the Holy Spirit to how does it say? I'm sorry, forgive me I'm just trying to remember now. When you are committing the unpardonable sin.
Yeah.
And that's something we really got to watch for.
When you elevate yourself to the height of God, that is,
Yes.
of course, in this world, taking the place of the Holy Spirit, and that's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. And that is a sin that is not forgiven in this life, neither in the next. That is what you
That's
wanted
it.
to say, right, Bret?
Thank you very much.
No, you're very much welcome. I understand that it's quite early then. I really appreciate your contribution and that you are getting up anyway to be with us and do these readings with us. And I think then a little help is normal to get. I would
Okay,
expect
great.
of you nothing else if I were in your shoes. So
Now, what page are we on?
page 12
run
in
to the
the
bathroom.
paper
Okay,
here
thank
on the bottom.
Great.
We further find in Scheff's History of the Church, a wonderful work if you have the time to read a few thousand pages, a reference to this Simon Magus. Scheff says, quote, "The author or first representative of this baptized heathenism, according to the uniform testimony of Christian antiquity, is Simon Magus, who unquestionably adulterated Christianity with pagan ideas and practices, and gave himself out in a pantheistic style for an emanation of God." Unquote. From his book Apostolic Christianity, Volume 2, page 566. I don't know how many volumes, but I think at least 8 you have, and no, not one is less than 600 pages, so that's quite a work to get through. Harnack, a church historian, states that Simon Magus, quote, proclaimed a doctrine in which the Jewish faith was strangely and grotesquely mixed with Babylonian myth, together with some Greek additions. The mysterious worship, in consequence of the widened horizon and the deepening religious feeling, finally the wild syncretism, that is, blending together of religious beliefs, whose aim was listen closely, a universal, see or read also Catholic, religion, all contributed to gain adherents for Simon. Unquote. Of Harnack's work in Volume 1, page 244. So, the goal of syncretism, that is blending together different religious beliefs, was to aim at a universal religion. Now let's go to today. In the aftermath of the Second Vatican Council that took place from the end of 1962 until 1965. That is also called the Ecumenical Council. Now, what was the goal of the Ecumenical Second Vatican Council in the 1960s? But to infiltrate all quote-unquote daughters of Rome, apostate churches of Rome, to come back under the wings of Rome, to form with all the other religions in the world a pantheistic new society of a one world religion, where it doesn't matter what God you pray to as long as you adhere to a God.
Sounds a lot like Freemasonry.
Of course. The goal of the Freemasons is nothing else but the goal of all the papal night orders anyway, or the goal
Yeah.
of the Jesuits.
Isn't that
They
something?
all work for the same person. You know that, Bret, that Freemasonry
Yeah,
on the top is
syncretism.
ruled by
Oh, the Black Pope.
the Black Pope, the Superior General of the Society of Jesus.
There we go.
So they always control both sides, and they do that to use this left-right paradigm. When you look at the grandfather's clock, the pendulum goes from left to right and left to right, but never changes. The only thing changing are the letters on the clock. as you can see in Hour of the Truth, the picture that I have here, the picture of the clock. There are two fingers on the clock, one for the minutes, one for the hours, and this is the only agenda that ever changes when the pendulum swings from left to right. The agenda of the Antichrist is getting closer to its fulfilling. And what's the fulfilling of the agenda of Antichrist? Well, very easy. Read Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 14, and you'll understand what the goal is. That's the quote-unquote New World Order. And we read in this already here. This is just fantastic, I think, to read this from Harnack right here. Syncretism has as an aim to produce a universal religion. I don't know when Harnack wrote this, but he wrote this about the Simon Magus power of the 1st century, and of course also in the 2nd century, and of course all the centuries after, but even starting in the very 1st century. So is this idea of ecumenism new? Is this idea of a one world religion new? No. Because we understood from the last reading that Christianity was already called by the Jews a sect, because they separated from the quote-unquote true religion, as the Jews think that their religion is, of the Old Testament, by accepting Jesus Christ and founding a new quote-unquote sect, a new religion. And of this sect, this Christianity, during the time of the Reformation and after that, we have many so-called quote-unquote denominations, other belief systems that came out of there. And with the syncretism, they are trying to get all these one back into a one universal, speak Catholic, religion. Those plans are already there from the beginning. Why? Well, read Isaiah chapter 14. It is that easy. Lucifer says it himself. Now in the text we continue. The Bible shows he had been working through demons, speaking of Simon Magus, of course. And yet, he finally called himself a quote-unquote Christian. Dr. McGiffert, speaking of Simon Magus, says, quote, his effort to rival and surpass Jesus very likely began after his contact with the Christians that Luke records. His religious system was apparently a syncretism of Jewish and Oriental elements, unquote, from Hastings' Dictionary of the Apostolic Church, Volume 2, page 497. Let's just see how far we are in the recording. We still have 15 minutes to go. Now, Erdmann's Handbook to the History of Christians notes, quote, early Christian writers regarded Simon as the fount of all heresies, on page 100. The Encyclopaedia Britannica in the 11th edition, in its article on Simon Magus, identifies him as, quote, the founder of a school of Gnostics and as a father of heresy. Noted historian Edward Gibbon says, the Gnostics, quote, blended with the faith of Christ many sublime but obscure tenets which they derived from Oriental philosophy, unquote. Just want to change the picture here back into Simon Magus, because that's what we talk about. And this last quote was taken from The Triumph of Christendom in the Roman Empire, page 15. One point that should be noted is there is a mixing of several religious ideas. This is one of the identifying characteristics of the beast in Revelation 13 that is identified as the Roman Catholic Church. As we can read in Revelation chapter 13 verse 2, quote, now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion, unquote. There you have the mouth of a lion, you have parts from Babylon. You have the feet of a bear, you have parts of the Medo-Persian Empire. And you have a beast like a leopard, there you have the Grecian Empire. And the syncretism of all these three empires and all these three on Babylon-based religions is the Roman Catholic Church. The four beasts used to make up the beast are made of the same four beasts Daniel saw in vision in Daniel 7. As a matter of fact, Papal Rome inherited from each of these pagan empires some of their basic identifying traits that we still see practiced in this modern-day false system of religion, the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is this modern-day false system of religion. Come out of her, my people. I hear God cry through the angel. From Babylon, the lion, the papacy, inherited the pagan priesthood. From Medo-Persia, the bear sun worship. From Greece, the leopard, human philosophies. And from the dragon, pagan Rome, its power, its seat, and great authority. As stated in Revelation chapter 13, verse 2, the mixing of these pagan ideas of the Roman Catholic Church had its onset from the very beginning. From this Simon Magus, who was well versed in all these abominable doctrines and false system of worship, created the early Catholic Church. These abominable doctrines can be traced back to the very beginning through Simon Magus.
Comment.
Please.
Yeah, I was looking at this new embassy they built in
Jerusalem?
Turkey. Turkey.
Okay.
And they have this symbol on there that bears striking resemblance to some symbols in Rome. And it's like 16 stars and 16 rays in a circle. Yeah, that sounds like sun worship to me. That's just fascinating how they use these types of symbols to harness that energy, really. I mean, that's really the whole occultic belief is these beliefs in symbology, and we're so incredibly indoctrinated with it here. I think around the globe we're all indoctrinated with it somewhat. But it's interesting to me that right here it says, from Babylon the lion, the papacy inherited a pagan priesthood, and from Medo-Persia, the bear, sun worship. Yes. And from Greece, the leopard, human philosophies. I mean, these are just treacherous realizations here of really what we're living in now. We're living in an amalgamation of all of this.
In
plus,
the syncretism of all these former empires, yeah.
Yeah, plus all of the new quote-unquote technologies. And, it's just, how much more sophisticated can you get? We're living in a time of incredible sophistication. Incredible. Can we reach more? Will it keep continuing this way?
I guess so.
Yeah, looks like it will, won't it?
Again, Bret, Isaiah 14 says it all.
It does.
Lucifer rebelled in heaven, and he will achieve all his goals, yet you will be put in the pit at the sides of hell. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Isaiah chapter 14 verse 15 reads. Yet, so that means he will reach his goal. He will have his possibility to deceive all of mankind. And he can deceive everybody who does not have the Word of God. Only when you have the Word of God, you have on the whole armor of God, and you can defeat the devil.
Yep.
Jesus set the example in Matthew chapter 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the devil came up to him and wanted to deceive him and wanted to lure him into accepting him and his gifts, The only thing Jesus said, it is written. 3 times. And the devil took a run. The devil cannot cope with the truth, because he is a liar and the father of it. And the truth and the lie can never stand up in the light of the truth, because light is stronger than darkness.
Comment.
Please.
Yeah, and also he wanted to be worshipped by Jesus, so that's his main goal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That was the third temptation. If you fall down and worship me, I give you all these kingdoms. When he took Jesus Christ on a great mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and said, all these I will give to you if you fall down and worship me.
Yep, chapter 4, verse 9.
And what did Jesus reply?
Then
Get thee behind me,
Jesus
Satan,
said, yeah.
for
There
it
we
is written, thou shalt worship the God of your father alone, or something like that, because I don't have it here. But
Yeah, the Lord thy God, and shall obey, or excuse me, and shall only, and him only shalt thou serve. Excuse me.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's very true. It's about worship. It's all about worship. It has never been about anything else. You know, Michael, it's an important point that you make here. It's all about worship because that's what it's all about. That's all about with God, and that it is all about with Satan. That's why Satan wants to take the place of God, that he gets the worship that belongs to God. That's why God says in the second commandment that he is a jealous God, and will take revenge on all the people who have betrayed him and who have taken away the worship that belongs to him. That's why he is jealous. He doesn't covet anything, because covetousness is a sin. But he is jealous because things have been taken from him. The worship that is his, because he is the creator of the world and everything that is in it, has been taken of him by the lie of Satan, when he approached the woman in the Garden of Eden and asked, Yea, hath God really said?
If I remember well, then Lucifer, in the time when he was in heaven, as he was created, then used to be, or is claimed to be, the most beautiful angel. So you see that the most beautiful angel is a kind of vanity. It's not the most clever angel, or the most profound angel, or the most lovable, or whatever, or the most creative, but the most beautiful. Which also means that it's just the most beautiful created being. But it's not that he could be proud of himself. So I think that the thing is, if you take the verb beautiful, for me it implies it's hard to say because angels are no material things, but it's beautiful to have anything beautiful. Is many people think of themselves as very valuable because they are, in the eyes of the viewer, are very beautiful, and that's not the point that I like to make. The point that I like to make is that I got a serious suspicion while listening to your voice reading this chapter, because of Simon Magus. You see, in my humble opinion, Simon Magus is a link between the Jewish high priest and some kind of Romans who have crucified Jesus, because at the moment when Jesus has been crucified, it is written in Matthew chapter 51, and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So, so, continuing this, this history, which was written, I think, you see, there was a combination between the Roman pontiff or the Roman soldiers and the high priests to get Jesus captured and crucified. And after Jesus or the Almighty has revealed the most holy by simply cutting the curtain of the temple itself, there has to be a plan of the high priest, in my opinion, to cover the things which has been revealed. And I think they made use of the Simon Magus, as well as the evil side hundreds of years ago made use of Aaron by creating the golden calf. And that's my idea I like to share with you.
Yeah, we always have to understand, of course, that the roots of Judaism, which is a apostate Bible belief system of the quote-unquote Old Testament, lies in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
And that are the same roots where Roman Catholicism comes from. As we have just read in this very interesting part, where it says that when we speak about these four beasts here of Daniel 7, as a matter of fact, Papal Rome inherited from each of these pagan empires some of their basic identifying traits. And the head is from Babylon, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Babylon,
right.
The lion, the papacy, inherited a pagan priesthood. And that is, as far as I remember, the head of the beast. Okay?
That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
So, who is the one that gives the direction to all the other parts of the body? The head,
It's
right?
the head. Absolutely.
So there you have, of course, that they have Babylonian roots. The Roman Catholic Church does. And the apostate Judaic Church also has its roots in Babylon since the Babylonian captivity of 500 BC, 500 before Christ was born, about that time. Because of that Babylonian captivity, they brought into the Judaic religion the Talmud and all the teachings of the Talmud and of the Kabbalah from Babylon. So they have, of course, the same origin. This is why we are reading in these other parts of what I was just reading about, claim who are Jews but are not.
Mm.
Yeah, as we read in Revelation, it was, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Revelation.
They have the same origin. Yeah, and that origin is Babylon.
Yeah,
And a very important point is, of course, that there's only one book in the whole world where you can see where Babylon originates from. And that's the Bible. And the Bible tells us that the fallen away first son that was born out of one of the sons of Noah, Nimrod, went to the land of Shinar, I think that is in Genesis chapter 11, and built walls and built a city there. And that was against the commandment of God, who said, "Go out into the world, spread all over the world, and multiply." God didn't tell them to build walls and live in cities. That's the first rebellion. That's where it all originates from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah,
why it's so important to understand, Babylon is on the root of it all. And there's only one book in the whole world where you can read the really origins of Babylon itself, and that is the Bible.
Yeah, and that's why I like to put the spotlight away from the man, Simon Magus, also away from the man, Ignatius de Loyola, you see, because they're all just puppets on a string. They're all being used by the force behind, and that's the thing I like to claim, because you see, if you speak of Lucifer, if you speak of the mastermind behind, if I might say so, then it must be his goal to empower mankind, to be his slaves, to worship him. And the best way you can do it is not by usually slavery, by putting the man in chains, but to let him worship in spite of the real Almighty God, and these are spiritual bonds, and I think that's the most power you can get, and I think he's very he's very prosperous in it. But I think that's the thing I keep in mind every time I read upon very evil people.
Okay.
That yes, he's false behind him.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I just want to go for the conclusion of this broadcast because we have reached an hour.
Yes, please do.
To share with you my conclusion that I take out of this, and I think that you will agree with me full-hearted. When we open the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, we read, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, so we wrestle not against the person, Simon Magus, or the person, Ignatius of Loyola, who you just mentioned, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." It's a spiritual fight that we are fighting. Not against flesh and blood, not against the person of Simon Magus, but what he stands for, the spirit that leads him, and the spirit that leads Ignatius of Loyola and the Jesuits and everybody in the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church, the Antichrist system as we know it today. That's what we are fighting in. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You see, that's the way that I understood your comment. Now I want to turn to you, Michael, first, to give us your closing comments for the broadcast of today, if you have any.
I did already.
Okay, well,
Yes.
that was it.
Good.
Fine. Okay, Bret.
Yes, thank you. Looks like we got quite a bit further, and whenever we reach Daniel, it's always interesting to go over these things because they are so profound and far-reaching. And it still occurs to this very day. So I think we will end the broadcast today on that note, and we'll come back to top of page, what is it, 14 next time? Yeah.
Or page 14.
Bottom of page 13, somewhere in there. So,
all
right, very well. Thank you, Jörg. And I really appreciate all the work you're doing there with the reading here, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Bret. Thank you, Michael, for being my guest on the broadcast today on this wonderful Sunday afternoon, sunny shining here. And Bret will now take a little bit of a breakfast, another cup of coffee, and take a wonderful walk in the still morning air that he has over there in the United States, I guess. And I'm going to do another broadcast this evening with Brother Victor on the Behind the Dictators reading in German, and I'm looking very much forward to come back to the fourth reading of Simon Peter versus Simon Magus. I hope it is with you both, but if not, I will give at least Bret the opportunity to give him my recording, and then he can add his comments wherever he wants to in that video, because we have so different schedules, and I promised Bret that I would involve him in this reading, and I stick to my word. But sometimes I have time to do a recording and he doesn't have time to join me. Then I will send him the recording and he can work it the way that he can work his comments in there, and that's the way we will proceed. And I'm quite sure that next weekend, next Sabbath, Saturday afternoon, my time, Saturday morning, your time, Bret, we will meet together for again for another reading. Whether this is the next or the one after that, I don't know yet, because I don't know my plans for the coming week. I don't know your plans for the coming week, and I don't know the plans of our listeners. I just hope that they got something out of the pages that we read today, especially also the pages of the Bible, because most important of all is that we understand that we have to put the Bible as the source of all our investigations, of all our research. The Bible has all the answers. Works of men like Schaff and Harnack and all these guys that we were reading in this paper can never substitute the Bible. They can only be an addition to that. First and for all, read your Bible and make sure that you have a correct Bible, that you have the 1611 King James Bible, the true, uncorrupted Word of God today, the 1611 authorized version. And you will see that the Holy Spirit will lead you into all truth when you study that Bible. Until next time, thanks for watching and listening. God bless you. Maranatha.
His name together. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt His name together. Let's magnify the Lord so that He is seen more clearly. Psalm 34, verse 3. Let's exalt His name together by living pure and holy. Psalm 34, verse 3. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt His name together. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt His name together, and let us exalt